Okay. All right. So today we're going to go over sections A3 and A4. Section A3 is called the metric system, capacity, and weight. Capacity is just a fancy name for volume. So capacity, same thing as volume. I think this is where the hardest problem out of all 4 sections is in this section. And we're going to go over it today. So some of the measurements for the metric system are not on your little conversion sheet, so I wanted to write them down here. So this is going to be some conversions to add to your conversion sheet. All right, so the first one is, well, maybe first I'll tell you the symbols. Little m stands for meter, or meters. Km is kilometers. MM is millimeters. Cm is centimeters. And then there's 2 more. Little g is grams. And capital L is liters. Then I'll add the conversions over here. Oh, and one more, sorry. DM. Should have added it up here, but I forgot. DM is decameters. That's the one that I'm probably like most or least familiar with, decameters. But there is one problem on the homework that deals with decameters.
Yeah, it was like CM3 to D3.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, that was the one I had to like look up how to,
Yeah.
how to convert.
That's the hardest one, I think, out of the whole homework for just that chapter A stuff. All right, so let's talk about the conversions. 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. So centi means 100. 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters. So milli is 1,000. 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. I think there's 2 more. 1 decameter is 10 meters. Oops, just M. And then the last one, 1 centimeter cubed, also called a cubic centimeter, is equal to 1 ml, which is a milliliter. M, capital L, is milliliter. And again, this is called either centimeters cubed or a cubic centimeter. And you may, if you have done anything in the medical field, this is also called a cc's. So a cubic centimeter is also called a cc. Or if you're just a Grey's Anatomy fan. I just started watching Grey's Anatomy, and Now I'm addicted.
My sister, we all work in healthcare.
Yeah.
She goes around like saying,
Yeah, my.
you're not even in that field.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty much a surgeon now after watching Grey's Anatomy. All right, let's look at our first example. This is that one that's really hard. This is number 1. How many cubic centimeters are in 73 decameters cubed? Or you could call it cubic decameters. So on the homework for sections A2, A3, and A4, a lot of the questions are worded in this format, like as a, as a question. On the test, I'll write them like this. I'll just say 73 cubic decameters equals blank cubic centimeters. Just try to make it look a little bit more simple on the test. And we'll talk about the test after the lecture. So this one is particularly hard, in my opinion. First of all, it's made more complicated because of these cubes. But the second reason is because there's no conversion that goes from cubic centimeters to cubic decimeters, or from centimeters to decimeters. So we'll have to go from cubic decameters to meters, and then to cubic centimeters. So we'll convert decameters to meters, and then meters to centimeters. And some of them are like this. I want to say there was another one on the homework where you maybe had to go from like centimeters to inches, and then inches to feet, something like that. So sometimes you have to go through another unit to get to the one you're looking for. All right, so we're going to use dimensional analysis on all these problems today. Dimensional analysis. So dimensional analysis is my preferred way of doing conversions.
Isn't that also called like a unit factor?
Yes, unit factor method, same thing. All right, so with dimensional analysis, you always start with what you know. So right now we know 73 cubic decameters. You always put that over 1. And dimensional analysis, or the unit factor method, is all about canceling out units. So we're trying to cancel out decameters and get to meters. So to cancel out decameters, we're going to multiply by a fraction. We're going to put decameters in the bottom. So that way it'll cancel with decameters in the top. So we can go from decameters to meters. We had a conversion for that. And it told us that in 1 decameter, there's 10 meters. Now, there's a little extra step that we're going to have to do here because of the cubed. So we need this to be decameters cubed. But if we cube this, we got to cube everything. So cube every piece. Cube every piece so that we can cancel out decameters cubed. All right, so now cancel your common units. Decameters cubed cancels with decameters cubed. Now we've gone from decameters to meters. So we went from decameters to meters. Now we got to go from meters to centimeters. So multiply by another unit factor. So another fraction. This time we're going to put meters in the bottom. We can go from meters to centimeters. in 1 meter, there's 100 centimeters. But again, we need that to be meters cubed, so we're going to cube everything. Cube just means raised to the third power. Now you can cancel those units. Meters cubed cancels with meters cubed. We're left with centimeters cubed, which is what we wanted. So now we can just multiply through on the top and on the bottom and see what we got. It's going to be a really big number. All right, so 73 times 10 raised to the third times 100 raised to the third. So mine comes up and it says this weird output. It says 7.3 E10. This is scientific notation as written by your calculator. So let me show you, I'm just going to write it down here, how to interpret that. So if you have something like 7.3 E10, that means move your decimal 10 places to the right. So that means move the decimal 10 places to the right. And again, the units here are centimeters cubed, so don't forget that, or cubic centimeters. In the bottom, this is just 1 times 1 times 1, which is just 1, so nothing to worry about down there. All the units in the bottom canceled out. So let's take 7.3, and let's move the decimal over 10 times. That's going to be 1, and then 9 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right. Now I'm going to go back and erase all this and add in my commas. Oh, that's terrible. So it's 73 with 9 zeros. All right, so commas. Put in your centimeters cubed or cubic centimeters. That's 73 billion cubic centimeters. $73 billion cubic centimeters. I had one more thing I wanted to show you about the scientific notation. Another way it can pop up, it may say something like this, 7.3. You know, the 7.3 could be any number, but let's just use this for our example. 7.3 E negative 10. That means move the decimal, yes, move decimal 10 places to the left. So this would be a really small number, something really close to 0. And then the top one would be a really big number. So the sign on the number after E, whether it's positive or negative, tells you if you should move it to the right or to the left. You will not see one like this on the test. So the ones on the test will not be, you will not have answers this big on the test. All right, let's look at one that's a little bit easier. I really like this one. This is a good one for the test. This is number 2. Says express 93 cubic centimeters in milliliters. And again, on the test, it would look like this. 93 cubic centimeters equals blank milliliters. So this is a good one for the test. Put a little star on it. So remember the conversion I gave you for cubic centimeters and milliliters? Yeah, 1 to 1. They're the same thing. So 1 cubic centimeter is 1 milliliter. So you don't have to do any work here. How many milliliters would that be?
93.
Yeah, 93. So it's just the same number as whatever this is. Super easy. Again, cc's is another way you can abbreviate centimeters cubed for cubic centimeters. Okay. I can't remember if I put 3 and 4 on the test, or if it was just 3 or just 4, but study both of these. And I'll write the simplified way here. So 28,500 milligrams equals blank kilograms. As the homework has it worded, it says convert 28,500 milligrams to kilograms using unit fractions. Do not round your answer. On the homework, I have you round everything to 3 decimal places. Or did I say on the homework? I meant to say on the test. On the test, I have you round everything to 3 decimal places. And we're going to use what we wrote down about meters, millimeters, and kilometers or kilometers, and apply that to grams here. So there's no conversion that goes from milligrams to kilograms, but we can go from milligrams to grams and then to kilograms. So we'll go from milligrams to grams and then to kilograms. So start with what you know, 28,500 milligrams over 1. We want to cancel out milligrams, so put milligrams at the bottom of the next fraction. We're going to go milligrams to grams. And we wrote down before that in 1 meter, there are 1,000 millimeters. So applying that here, that would mean that in 1 gram, there are 1,000 milligrams. Go ahead and cancel out your common units, milligrams. So milligrams and milligrams cancel. Now we can go from grams to kilograms. So multiply by another fraction, another unit fraction, put grams in the bottom. We're going to go from grams to kilograms. We know the prefix kilo or kilo means 1,000. So in 1 kilogram, there are 1,000 grams. So in 1 kilogram, there are 1,000 grams. So cancel out your grams. We're left with kilograms in the top, which is what we wanted. We have no units in the bottom. So now we're done. Just multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and then divide. So that's 28,500 kilograms over 1,000 times 1,000 would be 1,000,000. Let's see. 28,500 divided by 1,000,000. 0.0285. That's 0.0285. And the units is kilograms. Like I said, I can't remember if I put this one or the next one on the test. So study both of these. All right, number 4 is liters to milliliters. This is number 4. Convert 0.585 liters to milliliters using unit fractions. Do not round your answer. And again, we're going to use what we know about those prefixes. We know the prefix milli meant 1,000. So start with what you know. .585 liters over 1. We're trying to get rid of liters. We're going from liters to milliliters. So we're going to multiply by a unit fraction, put liters in the bottom and milliliters in the top. We know that in 1 liter, there are 1,000 milliliters. Liters and liters cancel. So liters in the top cancels with liters in the bottom. And multiplying by 1,000 there, it's just going to move the decimal 3 places to the right. So that would be 585 milliliters. So 2, 3, and 4 are good ones to study for the test. We're going to move on to section A4. Section A4, we're going to use that sheet again, that conversion sheet. This is called US and metric equivalents. So converting between US measurements and metric measurements. So you'll see stuff in here like kilograms to pounds, maybe like miles to meters. Ounces to grams. I'll try to remember which ones I liked here. I know I put one like this on the test. This would be number 1 from this section. 40 degrees Fahrenheit equals blank degrees Celsius. Round your answer to the nearest thousandth if necessary. So that means 3 decimal places. It goes tenth, hundredth, thousandth. So that's 3 decimal places, which is what I had you do on the test. Any of the questions where you had to round to a certain decimal, I made those multiple choice. So you wouldn't have to worry about typing in a long decimal. All right, so 40 degrees Fahrenheit equals blank degrees Celsius. If you look on your little conversion sheet, at the very bottom, there are formulas for temperature conversions. The second one says Fahrenheit to Celsius. And that formula says C equals F minus 32 over 1.8. So you take your Fahrenheit temperature, subtract 32, and then divide by 1.8. Super simple. So we're going to replace F with 40. So we have 40 minus 32 over 1.8. If you want to plug this all in at one time, make sure you have your numerator in parentheses. You could just do it in 2 steps, though, if you didn't want to have to worry about that. So 40 minus 32, 8, divided by 1.8 is 4.44444. So rounding to 3 decimal places, that would just be 4.444. We plug it in up here. We don't even have to worry about putting in the degrees Celsius. It's already in there. So you do not have to worry about doing the degrees Celsius. This is one that's definitely on the test. I don't know if I want to say I went Fahrenheit to Celsius instead of Celsius to Fahrenheit, but that formula is also on the test, on the conversion sheet, Celsius to Fahrenheit. That was a little bit easier. All right, second one is yards to meters. Convert 900 yards to meters. All right, so this is our first actual conversion where we're going to have to use dimensional analysis. So convert 900 yards to meters. Okay, so on your sheet, you have 2 columns here. It's table 2.3 USCS, which stands for US Customary System, to metric. You have 2 columns. These columns have the same information. So just pick one of them and use that column always. Like I always use the left column. So I just ignore this column. All right, so I'm only going to use the column on the left. The column on the right will give you the correct answer as well. I just like to be consistent and always use the same one. But that column says 1 yard, YD stands for yard, or sorry, that should be equals 0.9144 meters. So a meter is just a little bit smaller than a yard. All right, so start with what you know, 900 yards over 1. We're going to multiply by a unit factor. We want to cancel out yards, so put yards in the bottom. We're going to go yards to meters. And they told us that in 1 yard, there are 0.9144 meters. Cancel out your common units, which is yards here. Then just multiply across the top. It should just be a little bit smaller than 900. Yeah, 822.96. So just a little bit smaller. And the units here is meters. We're done. .96. So sometimes people will ask, like, how do I know when to stop? Like, how do I know when to stop multiplying by unit factors? You're going to know when to stop because you'll have the units that you're looking for in the top. Like here, we're looking for meters. We have meters in the top right here, so stop. All right, we have a couple more. This is number 3. This is kilometers to miles. What number of miles is equivalent to 750 kilometers? So 750 kilometers equals blank miles. MI is the abbreviation for miles. Be careful and don't get that confused with meters. M is the abbreviation for meters. MI is miles. All right, so if I'm looking on my sheet in the first column, it's the one I like to look at. It's kind of hard to see because this is an old copy. You can see it's from 2017. But it says 1 mile is 1.6093 kilometers. So 1 mile is equal to 1.6093 kilometers.
So that's supposed to be half, just like a two?
Yes, it looks like an L, it looks like milliliters. Yeah. All right, so 1 mile is 1.6093 kilometers. So it's just a little bit more than a mile and a half. All right, so we're going to start with what we know, which is 750 kilometers. Over 1. All right, so we want to cancel out kilometers. So when we multiply by our unit fraction, put kilometers in the bottom. We want from kilometers to miles. And they told us that in 1 mile, there are 1.6093 kilometers. Cancel out your common units, kilometers and kilometers. Multiply across the top. 750 times 1 would be 750 miles over 1 times 6.093 would just be 1.6093. Then divide that. All right, 4 decimal places, or no, 3 decimal places, my bad. So 3 decimal places would be 466.041. And the units is miles. Okay. I'm trying to remember if I put this one on the test or not. Let me look at the last one. I can't remember. I know I put this one on the test. So number 4 is definitely on there. 40 pounds equals blank kilograms. Round your answer to 3 decimal places, if necessary. So this is definitely on the test. I just did a different number instead of 40. All right, so looking at my sheet, I have a conversion for pounds to kilograms. It says 1 pound. 1 pound. Let me write that as a cursive L so it doesn't look like a 1. 1 pound is 0.4536 kilograms. 4536. You have to be careful with these long decimals and don't get any of the numbers mixed up. All right, so start with what you know, 40 pounds over 1 times your unit fraction. We want to cancel out pounds, so put pounds in the bottom. We're going to go from pounds to kilograms. They told us that 1 pound is 0.4536 kilograms. Cancel out your common units, pounds and pounds. So 40 times 0.4536, 18.144. Kilograms. And then I put the last one in here because it was not on your conversion sheet, but it was on the homework. So I wanted to make sure you had seen one of these. So number 5 is not on the test, but it is on the homework. And you already have this one on your conversion sheet. These 2 conversions are the same thing, you just use one of them. You don't need both. I use the one on the left. Again, these are really just approximations. That's why you see the little squiggly equal signs. That means approximately. So this says 20 grams equals blank ounces. So grams to ounces. All right, so starting with what you know, 20 grams. 20 grams over 1. We're going to go from grams to ounces. So grams to ounces. So we're going to multiply by a unit fraction, with grams at the bottom, ounces in the top. And this is a type of weight measurement. You have to be careful, like if you're using one of those like household scales to measure food with and stuff. Make sure you're, using the correct one, ounces or fluid ounces. All right, so the conversion says in 1 ounce there are 28.35 grams. You could use this other conversion and get a similar answer. It does not matter which one you use. You will be correct.
How are they the same?
How are they the same?
Yeah.
So what they do here is if 1 ounce is 28.35 grams, they divide both sides by 28.35. That cancels out, becomes 1. And that's where that number comes from. It's 1 divided by 28.35.
Okay.
Yeah. So that should be somewhere around 0.035 if you divided that.
And we need to write that one down, don't keep this not on here.
I just used this one. I didn't even write this one down on mine. So just choose one of them. You don't need both. All right, so grams and grams cancel. Then you have 20 times 1 is 20 ounces over 1 times 28.35. It's 28.35. Then do that division. 20 divided by 28.35 is 3 decimal places would be 0.705. So 0.705 ounces. All right. I'm going to stop the recording, then we'll talk about the test.